Yeah, well, my name's Louis Roots. I grew up in Bunbury. So SK Games is kind of a new take on video games. Did the usual high school thing, year off. I had a lot of different jobs in my year off. Went to uni, ECU, did game design and culture, and a minor in visual art. Then after that, which took a few years, probably a couple of years longer than it should have, but uni does that. I went over to Europe, worked in a company called Kilu, doing mobile games. I was there for a year and a half in Denmark. Then came back for family reasons, well, a few reasons. Never really had an official visa in Denmark. It's fine. So I came back and started up SK Games. And that was in September. So for about 5 months. Well, growing up, my folks, they both ran a company called Swiss Spec. It's electrical contracting, did mine site stuff. My father was a director, my mum did the bookwork, that kind of stuff. So I sort of came from they started from scratch, came from a small business family, so that was a big work ethic kind of thing. And they sold their business about 3-4 years back. They had a really big influence in, initially my desire to one day work for myself and start up my own business. And then also they had the capital to, and the sort of, the backing for like I guess, not necessarily financial, but just someone to say, that's a good idea, you should do it, we'll help you. That was a bigger thing than money for me, So SK Games is kind of a new take on video games. I was in mobile development, which is interesting, although not really. I don't really feel that comfortable with it. So it's not my passion, but it did teach me a lot about getting out to a wide audience and small development cycles and all that kind of jazz. But so SK is actually aimed at arcade games. So we create software, so we create the game, and then we'll create a custom cabinet to house it. And the idea is they're both kind of created in synchronous, so they're created to complement each other. So the control scheme and the layout of the screen, the number of screens, even down to the aesthetic of the. Like if we use wood, we might stain it a certain way to match the colours in the game. So it's really an interesting venture because it's not anything that has really been done before in our particular way. And people make their own custom arcade machines, but they use old games. So it's kind of difficult because we didn't have a business model to follow. So, and we differ a lot between us and other local game developers in that we're not aiming at the consumer directly. We're aiming at, say, a venue to lease it from. So they can lease it from us. We can create custom stuff for them. Match their decor, match their what they're about. It's the hardest part really is explaining it. To get a venue manager to sit down and listen to this, for 5 minutes to actually get the head around it and not think that you're trying to sell them, a Pac-Man machine. That's actually been the most difficult part so far. Mainly Facebook. That was kind of the key there. Obviously, the first thing you do. I found this years back when I used to play in a band down in Bunbury, and then we moved into Perth. We all, the 4 members got different groups of friends and stuff. And when you play your first show, everyone sort of says, "Oh, that's right, you're in a band. Oh, that's great. We'll come check it out." So the housewarming was, the majority just friends, and then they all, went back, posted on Facebook, and that kind of thing grew from there. Because then once they've seen it, then they don't care anymore. See your friends, they just go, yeah, cool, we saw it, we're out. But so now we're relying on on Facebook, on different ways of putting stuff out. We, for the exhibition, we did the traditional little exhibition flyers that you place at coffee shops and stuff like that. It's kind of odd that the process of going an exhibition. How do people usually do exhibitions? Oh, that's right, those little things you get at the coffee shops that no one ever picks up. So I really wanted to come back to Perth because of the family. They're in Dunsborough now, which is nice. I like the distance. But it's that was a big part of. I already really wanted to stay in Perth. And looking at the game development scene, there's not a lot. So I figured if I'm going to be in Perth, I wanted to, rather than put all my eggs in one basket and go for a big game, I wanted to do something more my style, which is sort of more progressive, more iterative, and also a lot more interactive with the community. Because I figure there's a big community in Perth. Perth's really isolated, so we have a really nice sense of community, but the games community is just a little small, so we have to sort of target a larger audience. And when I was a kid, none of my friends were gamers. However, if you're sitting there playing Street Fighter and they come over, then they'll definitely sit next to you and play Street Fighter. There's no, sitting next to someone, having that social sort of interaction is something that I think has kind of been a bit lost in games recently. Even, most consoles now, they're mostly just online multiplayer. So if you want to play with your friend, he has to go back to his house and log in, and it's just where's the fun? So, and we sort of did see the old Pac-Man machines in bars, but they're kind of an antisocial thing. People sort of go away from their friends to play, and they're really, narrow scope. So we deliberately create things that are quite easy for people to see, easy for people who even aren't playing to follow. And we're trying to get that kind of social aspect back into these games. So I figured that was, there was a spot for that. And the best way to do it was to create our own stuff. I mean, it's a PC essentially in there, but it's all about more about the experience. We figured that would be a way to get Perth involved. Yeah, hearing someone, audibly swear because you just shot them that's amazing. We use a program called Unity, which is a game development tool. It's pretty much industry standard. I like it mainly because I'm used to it. I worked with that in Denmark, but it's really good for just anything. So it handles 2D and 3D and whatever you want to throw at it. So we couldn't really use a specific engine because then we'd produce the same kinds of games, which is fine for some studios, but not really for us. So we develop on that on Unity. We sort of scour for old PCs. We used to get them from refurbished websites. Recently picked up a whole bunch from Murdoch that were getting thrown out. Basically just because they don't need to be that powerful. So we try to find what we can, where we can. We also, we like recycling and stuff as well. The first prototype came mostly from the tip, and some from roadside collection. It was quite cheap, although not easy to work with, turns out. Yeah, apparently you get what you pay for. Who would have thought? But it was a coffee table and then some drawers that had been heavily modified into a 4-player pinball kind of thing. It was really good. And now at the moment, our current run, which are at the Scotsman every Wednesday, are made from old milk crates. So it's basically a milk crate with a refurbished laptop underneath. Then we use a little keyboard encoder and just regular arcade buttons. Really positive. When you get someone in, we do a lot of events, and because our office on Fitzgerald Street, it's an old house. Then was I think a corner store at one stage, and an architect office, and now it's our office. It has kind of a nice showroom at the front. On like previous Friday, we did an art exhibition, so we had the exhibition in the showroom, and then it has a really nice backyard, which wasn't always nice, but then we renovated. And that's, so, we had the art exhibition and then just a hangout area at the back with some milk crate games. And yeah, so we do a lot of events there to try to bring people in and let them know, like show them the process, show them the place, get them familiar with us, and I guess sort of comfortable with hanging out with us, I guess. We're trying to be really involved in the community. We do some markets, we do that kind of, we're doing something with SciTech soon. We've got YCon in a bit, just, doing whatever really. At the moment we're just seeing what the response is at different places. The only issue is sometimes we go to a market and people see it less as an enjoyable experience for all ages and more of like, cool, I can leave my kids here while I go do other things. We're really focused on Perth. We're looking, actually towards the end of the year, we're looking at taking some stuff over east. There's a few, there's PAX and GCAP and a few events over there that we really like to sort of be at. So, if we're there, we'll at least be there just visiting. But we're talking with a lot of people about maybe even setting up like a pop-up arcade in Melbourne for a week with some local developers stuff. Because I think as good as Perth is, tying it in with the rest of Australia is going to be, eventually we're going to hit the edges of Perth and need to talk to more people. But at the moment, it's really just a small gig, and we're seeing how much we can get out of the 6 of us, I guess. Yeah, the 6 of us. The potential is there, but it's very far from where we are at the moment, and not only in terms of scale, but in terms of sort of the ethos behind it. At the moment, because we're small, because we have, a backyard atmosphere, because we're, drinking too much, well, more than too much. It's like our stuff is quite custom, and it's fairly unique. So it's kind of like there's a game called Joust, which is actually going to be at YCon apparently. A pretty simple kind of interactive game with using the PlayStation Move controllers that never really took off. But one of the reasons that it's so popular is because it's never really, it's very hard to find. And also, whenever you find it, it's not available just to anyone. You have to know how to do it, to set it up, and to let people play it. So every experience is a controlled experience. There's someone there who knows what's going on, which is, why it's got quite a cult following. It's never going to be, a huge $1 million success, but it is, a cult sort of thing. At the moment, we're aiming down that kind of path. At the moment, the capital all comes from the family. So it's really, like the family helping me out with bookwork. It's actually their company is investing, sort of thing. We've had some chats with some other people, but at the end of the day, I'll keep it in family as long as possible. It's just so much simpler. We've had talks with some government grants and stuff like that, and it's fine. It's just a lot of hoops, but not much reward. So yeah, it's one of those sort of deal with that later. Yeah, well, I had a brief look, and I guess the hardest part was mainly because the business model wasn't something I could replicate. It wasn't something I could say, oh, these guys are going really well, I'll do what they did. And I knew it was something that was going to evolve. It was something that I couldn't say to an investor, we're going to do this and this and this, here's my 5-point plan, here's how it's going to make money, because it was basically step 1 is, make a game, have a housewarming, Step 2, I have no idea what's going to happen, and then I have to wait until after housewarming to gauge the reaction. Then I'll do step 2. You know, it's because it's such a unique venture. I was really happy to have the folks behind me, because otherwise, yeah, it would have been impossible. We're still looking at different avenues. So pretty much no. No, I'm not making any money. Wednesday, every second Wednesday, I give people money out of my account, and I go, oh, great, and they're really happy with it. You know, every second Wednesday, my staff are really happy, and I'm not as happy, but it's fine. You know, we're definitely well aware that we're not going to be, you know, breaking even for a long time. This is, you know, one of those startups that's going to need a lot of emphasis behind it, a lot of you know, legwork, a lot of community building, just getting our name out and everywhere as possible. You know, everywhere, pretty much everywhere as possible. Yeah, why not? To coin a phrase. So yeah, we definitely budgeted for a lot of loss, which is fine. We're comfortable with that. We're starting to have some better talks with venue owners. You know, we've got some stuff lined up with some bars at the moment, which should be the beginning of that kind of stuff. I'm also heading over to conference in March and catching up with the Danish guys, just because I haven't seen them in a long time. And also they do a lot of co-production stuff. They're looking for you know, sort of contract work, and they would love to help us out. And you know, if it's something that we're down for, then it wouldn't hurt. So there's a lot of different avenues at the moment, and we're really just trying to sound out. You know, you go to the one you want ideally, and then, you know, sort of we're trying to figure out how long it'll be until that can be profitable, and then sort of going, okay, we might have to just do a little bit of this while we're waiting, and yeah. The best part is probably just having no idea what's going to happen. Well, best and worst. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the both of them. It's just having no idea. You know, we've got so many different opportunities coming up, and every time we do something, we learn like so much. You know, I mean, there's no job or university course or anything I could have done that would teach me as much as I've learned over the last 5 months. You know, like it's staggering. So the next thing I'm looking forward to is the conference over East. Talking to a few different people over there, and you know, seeing how that goes. Every event we have is something new at the moment, because we're still trying all these different avenues. We've had like a movie night, we've had an art exhibition, we've had just a general housewarming piss up, you know. So yeah, it's at the moment I'm just really fascinated learning everything. Well, I mean, you know, besides the obvious, you know, it could fail. It's not really an issue. The biggest fear, I guess, is just that you know, it's just that it'll take a longer time to get off the ground. I mean, that it won't get off the ground, not in terms of the business side, but mainly in terms of the social side, like trying to get our name more recognized, you know, like it'd be nice eventually to sort of be recognized in Perth. It's, well, the Perth dev community is pretty tight. You've got, you know, so there's Stirfire who, you know, just got on Steam, and now they're, you know, going really well, and you know, these other guys, Nomic, have done really well with Square Off, and then, you know, but they're developers of single games, and that's not really a competitor of us. You know, like like if we have an event and, you know, they want to show something, we're more than happy to do that, because that's not really, you know, the more people we can get through, you know, if we can get their fans in, then that's great for us. And yeah, there's nothing, we're not worried that them playing that game is going to stop a venue owner from renting something from us. That's, you know, The only people that really could even qualify as competitors would be someone like AFK, who do Bite Night, and Let's Make Games, who do they do a lot of events, and that's simply just because of events. But obviously it's Perth, so they're not competitors. You just sort of say, okay, you've got something on then, cool, we'll do something the next weekend. Like there's no point in being a competitor with anyone in Perth. I'm sure it would definitely depend on the startup in question, but I think the main thing I sort of picked up from it was just like the support of my family, who had started up their own business before, and mainly them knowing how to do it right the first time. Obviously not with making games and anything like that, but with in terms of talking to lawyers, talking to accountants, getting everything sorted. Registering your this, your that, knowing where the IP goes, all that kind of stuff. It's, I wouldn't have been able to do it myself, and if I tried, I probably would have half-assed it. But that, by far, has been the best. Being able to focus just on the business and just on what we're doing, and not have to worry about, like, did I fill in that form correctly? Is the landlord going to come around and, worry about the numbers on this piece of paper? At the moment, if they do come around and say that, I go, I don't even know. I didn't do that. I'll talk to someone else, which is great. I love having that.